Yo, Kinshasa Today listeners, what's the word on the streets?
Hey there.
Because if you've been tuning into the local news, you know there's quite a bit of chatter.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you look at what's been happening out in Cell and, well, even right here in Limit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It feels like we're watching, a pretty significant story unfold. One that's got people talking, definitely, across Kinshasa.
For sure. So today on Kinshasa, we're doing a deep dive into these recent searches, and the ones maybe still coming, of properties linked to former President Joseph Kabila.
Right.
Just the other day, it was the family place in Lemit that got, well, a thorough going over. And now it seems like all eyes are kind of shifting towards the Kingakati farm.
And our goal here, really, in this deep dive is to try and cut through some of the noise, the speculation, and just understand what our local news sources are actually telling us.
Exactly. We want to give you, our listeners here in Kinshasa, just a clearer picture of these events and maybe crucially why they might matter to us right here at home.
Totally. And we've been keeping tabs on places like UNOT.CD, Objective Infos, and Mboat.
Yeah, the local guy.
The ones really plugged into what's happening in our city.
Okay, so let's get into it then. What exactly went down in Limo? Can we recap that?
Okay, so according to both UN.CD and Mboat, the search of the Kabila family's Lembe residence, that happened a couple of days before the reports came out.
Okay.
Which, puts it around April 15th, give or take.
Gotcha, April 15th. And Mboat, they gave us some interesting details, didn't they? Especially the reaction from Adam Shamisi.
Right, yeah, Marie-Olive Lembe Kabila's communications advisor. He stated, and this is according to Mboat, that military personnel were basically there all day.
All day.
From morning until evening, yeah. And the key thing, they didn't find anything that could be considered, like, compromising.
Nothing compromising. But there was that detail about the Jeeps, right?
Yes. What's kind of fascinating about Shamisi's account, also from Mboat, is this mention of 2 Defender Jeeps. Apparently, the military flagged them as suspicious. And the reason? Simply because they're the same type of vehicles used by the Army.
Huh. So just the type of vehicle was enough?
It seems so. It really highlights, I think, the intense scrutiny these properties are under right now. Like anything even slightly official looking is getting a second look.
Wow. Okay, so that's the Lemmy piece. Nothing found, but still that Jeep detail. Now, let's shift focus east, out to Ninzel and the Kingakati farm.
Right.
This feels like maybe the main event everyone in Kinshasa is sort of waiting to hear about.
Yeah, I think so. The planned search of Joseph Kabila's Kingakati farm, which, Mboat reminds us is also known as Parc de la Vallée de la Nelle.
Ah, the park, right.
That's the big development now. Based on the reports from UN.CD and Objective Infos, both dated April 17th, this search was expected, well, around Thursday, April 17th.
Okay, so, like, right around now, basically. Do we know why? Like, what's the stated reason for the search?
We do have some insight there. Adam Shamisi, speaking again, this time to UN.CD, he indicated that the DEMIAP,
which is military intelligence for a listener.
Correct, military intelligence.
Yep.
And the ANR, the National Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
They presented a mission order back on Wednesday, April 16th. And the stated purpose was, let me get the quote right, to look for military materials and effects of the state that would have been stolen or concealed.
Military materials and effects of the state. Stolen or concealed. Okay, that sounds pretty serious.
It does. And what's also noteworthy here is just how broad this planned search seems to be.
How so?
Well, Shamisi, again through UN.CD, mentioned warehouses, containers, premises, even vehicles on the property.
Wow.
And importantly, he noted that many of these were actually occupied by tenants. So it wasn't just Kabila's direct stuff, potentially. It suggests a really comprehensive operation.
Right, sweeping through the whole concession. And it's important for us here in Kinshasa to remember, like Union.CD pointed out, Kingakati isn't just some random piece of land out there.
No, not at all.
It's known as, quote, one of the best tourist spots in Kinshasa. A lot of us have probably been there or know people who have.
Exactly. That's a key point. It's part of our city's landscape,
Right.
It adds this whole public dimension to the story for us as Kinshasans.
Totally. It's not just some private affair. So given that, how's the family reacting? Particularly Marie-Olive Lembe Kabila.
Well, Objective Infos really captured her reaction to the planned Kingakati search. And it was strong.
Strong how?
Very strong condemnation. She didn't hold back. She's directly quoted saying, and I'll read the French, then we can translate. C'est une persécution que nous subissons des services de sécurité et de ce régime.
Okay.
Ils nous persécutent et créent expressément des dommages sur l'image de nos activités.
Right, so translating that, something like, this is persecution that we're suffering from the security services and this regime.
Exactly. They are persecuting us and deliberately creating damage to the image of our activities.
Wow, so she's framing it very clearly as a targeted campaign, political harassment, essentially.
That's precisely the message. Her statement to Objective Infos leaves no doubt about how she sees it. It definitely raises that question, doesn't it? If nothing was found in Lembe.
Then what's the real driver behind searching Kingakati now? Yeah. Okay, so that's a key question for us, right? Let's try and look at the bigger picture here. Why are these searches happening now, according to the news sources? What's the alleged context?
Well, both Un.cd and Objective Infos, they point to this underlying context. The current Tshisekedi regime reportedly suspects Joseph Kabila of having close ties with the AFC M23 rebel coalition.
Ah, the M23 connection. That's been bubbling up.
Yeah, the groups operating in the eastern part of the country. These are, very serious allegations. They touch on national security.
Definitely serious. And it's crucial, as Objective Infos points out, to remember the other side.
Absolutely.
The Kabila family strongly denies these accusations.
Vigorously denies them.
Yeah.
So you have these two really distinct narratives clashing, right? The government, through these actions, like the searches, suggests a security concern.
Right.
While the Kabila family is crying foul, claiming political harassment persecution.
Okay. And how is this playing out here, on the ground in Kinshasa? Mbot touched on reactions to the Lembe search, didn't they?
They did. And it seems, unsurprisingly perhaps, that reactions have been mixed.
Mixed how? Like, what are people saying?
Well, some people apparently view it as, political score settling. A sentiment we sometimes hear in local discussions, right?
Sure. The old regime versus the new regime narrative.
Exactly. But then others see it as potentially a legitimate pursuit of justice, especially given how serious the allegations about M23 are.
So it really reflects the kind of divided political landscape we have here in the city and maybe the country.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Okay, so bringing it back home, for Kinshasa today and for us living here, how does this news actually resonate with our neighbors, the people we talk to?
Well, it feels like it taps into some of those really deep-seated political tensions in Congo, doesn't it? The whole relationship between past and present leadership, the ongoing terrible challenges in the East. It all feels kind of interconnected when something like this happens.
It does, and like we said, there's that very local angle too, especially with Kingakati being such a well-known place here.
Right, so I imagine there's probably a whole range of reactions swirling around Kinshasa. Maybe some concern about potential instability this could stir up.
Could be.
Maybe just, natural human curiosity about what might actually be found, even with the family's denials.
True.
As Kinshasans, we're all living within this political climate, right? And these high-profile events, they definitely shape that climate. They get people talking.
No doubt about that. Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive for Kinshasa today, what are the main takeaways? What should we really keep in mind from all this?
Okay, let's summarize. First, the Kabila family residence back in Lembe was searched, maybe April 15th. Reports say nothing compromising found, but those defender jeeps were flagged.
Right, the jeep detail. Okay.
Second, a search of the Kingakati farm out in Minsale, that familiar landmark for many of us, was planned or expected around April 17th.
And the official reason given was?
Based on a mission order, citing a search for potentially stolen or concealed state military materials.
Got it. And then the reaction.
Point 3. Marie Olive Lembe Kabila's very strong reaction, calling these actions persecution and a deliberate attempt to damage their reputation and activities.
Can't ignore that. And finally, the context.
Yeah, finally, this is all happening against that backdrop of serious accusations linking Joseph Kabila to the AFC M23 rebels, which, again, his family flatly denies.
And we see mixed reactions to it all right here in Kinshasa. Some seeing politics, some seeing potential justice.
Precisely. So what does it all mean for us here in this city? Well, it certainly reflects those ongoing political dynamics, And maybe it raises questions for people about trust, about transparency. For everyday Kinshasans, it's a significant story. It touches on those bigger issues of governance and security that definitely affect our community.
Absolutely, and it's clearly a developing story, isn't it? So important to stay tuned, keep following our local news outlets for any further updates. Things could change quickly.
Definitely. And maybe on that note, for our Kinshasa Today listeners, here's something just to think about, to chew on.
Okay.
What does it really mean for our city, for Kinshasa, When events like these unfold, involving such prominent figures, places we actually know, like Kingakati, how do we, as Kinshasans, how do we process these developments? And what do we think about their potential impact, on our shared future here?
That's a good question to leave people with. Definitely something to reflect on.